Hello and welcome to the first special Day in Film video on this channel. This is the first episode of the Day in Film SpoooooookyCast. For the month of October, I'm just going to watch a bunch of horror movies and put them on the SpoooooookyCast instead of the normal cast. Before we get into it, subscribe and like. Let me know that you're liking the videos. It really does mean the world. And keep watching the videos, okay, guys? It would really mean the world to me. But anyway, let's get into the movie because I just really want to talk about this thing. Today, on the first, I watched As Above, So Below, directed by John Eric Dodell, I think is how you say his name. I have actually seen another one of this guy's films. I've seen the Poughkeepsie Tapes, which is a very divisive film, but from what I remember, which is very little, I think I liked the Poughkeepsie Tapes a good bit. It's a good mockumentary. And in a similar way, As Above, So Below is I'd say a very good mockumentary as well. Now, sure, it is a found footage movie that takes place in the Paris catacombs. It's not exactly high art or anything, and it's not breaking any barriers, but for what it is and for what it does, I think it does it all pretty well. To summarize the plot, it follows this main character, Scarlett. She is played by a girl I forgot the name of. She is she is exploring and adventuring in an attempt to find the fabled Sorcerer's Stone, very popular in alchemy. It's basically a stone that can turn metals into gold and heal people's wounds as well. As she is a chemist, or not a chemist, kind of a chemist, and an alchemy-obsessed researcher, PhD student person thing. So her drive is very strong in this movie for scientific research, and you follow their adventures through the Paris catacombs and seeing all the paranormal activity that goes down there. So it is a found footage film, so the filmmaking style, the cinematography, is very hands-on, which for the most part is used pretty well in this movie. It's very easy to make found footage just kind of feel like a gimmick. But I think for the kind of movie that it is, especially taking place in the Paris catacombs, I think it's probably the best way to shoot a movie like this. I did often throughout this movie get hints of The Descent and just the kind of general flavor palette of the movie. It all feels sort of similar to The Descent, not in like a tonal way because The Descent is mutant people, and this is a movie about paranormal activity in the Paris catacombs. So I just noticed some things about like how the characters were reacting and the color palette too. Both these movies are very brown. Obviously, they both take place underground. But one thing that I really appreciate about this movie and about The Descent is the effective horror in this film. Obviously, in this movie, eventually you get to the more ghosts and ghouls kind of thing, but for a very good while, a lot of the horror in this movie is just how scary the Paris catacombs are, naturally. You know, you don't have to have a guy chasing you in there with a knife to be scared. It is a very small, cramped space, hundreds of feet underground, where at any moment, realistically, the ceiling could collapse and kill you. There is a very effective horror scene near the, I'd say like 35 minutes into this movie, where the cameraman gets momentarily stuck and he is like screaming for his life, freaking out, and you really do feel fear for this guy. Even though there aren't any ghouls or ghosts or goblins in the movie yet, you still feel like, oh man, he's gonna get crushed, and then they have to deal with that and they can't get out through that way again. It's a lot of effective horror just through the setting, which is very important to do in a movie like this. There's not really a score. The score, I guess you could call it, is just people screaming their lungs out, being all scared, which makes sense, you know. If you were in the Paris catacombs and it seemed like there was an evil force trying to stop you from leaving, then you would probably be pretty scared too. I like the whole idea of diving into hell, seeing the "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here" or whatever above the walkway as they crawl in is really cool, and it's a really effective bit of horror, especially if you know before she says it. Or before she explains that it's in mythology, it's where the gates of hell are. Again, I'm not huge on the ghouls and ghosts, but I think the idea of confronting past trauma in these tunnels and caves, and having to overcome it to escape is a really neat idea. and having there be a constant threat of just getting lost or just starving or dying of dehydration or any millions of ways you could die under there is really cool. I also like the opening. The opening takes place in the Middle East somewhere, and she basically finds the key, like the key to the language that she couldn't really understand, which is really neat. And the whole cast of characters, it's a very big cast for a movie like this. It's like 8 people or something. And even though they aren't all fleshed out as well as they probably could have been, for the most part, they are, if not likable, at least you care about them. You know, you're like, oh, well, I hope he doesn't die, or, oh, he might die here, and you get a little worried. Again, I don't know if I've said this yet, but the movie is not very scary. It falls into a lot of the pitfalls that found footage horror falls into, where something just gets really close to the camera and you hear the main character or the character who's holding it scream. There are some surprising moments when the cameraman dies. Oh shit, I'm spoiling. I didn't say that. There are some scary moments, mainly character deaths. The jump scares, at least to me, are just not very scary and actually kind of hinder my overall appreciation for the movie. Yeah, I mean this is a very good. It's not Parisian because it's directed by an American dude, but a very good found footage horror movie set in Paris, which is not an easy thing to do. I'm sure you'll eventually pick this up if you're watching in the future, but this first week of the SpoooooookyCast is exclusively found footage, or at least I want it to be mostly exclusively found footage, because I really don't appreciate this genre enough, because, you know, there are definitely stinkers, and a lot of found footage like Paranormal Activity is not very good, but there are some standouts. You know, I'm going to watch The Blair Witch tomorrow, iconic found footage, maybe even the first. I'm just going to be watching a lot of horror, and I am very excited. But before I close it off again, I have to ask you, please like and subscribe. It really would mean the world to me. It keeps me going. You know, 110 subscribers, that's no small feat, guys. Seriously. We are growing at a rapid rate, even if it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Again, I hope you enjoyed. But for real, that's all I have to say. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will see you in the Parisian catacombs.